So the question is, what do I do when I have to talk to when somebody says I have to talk to my husband? The first thing you use is the objection cycle. Mrs. Jones, I totally understand how you feel. If I were in your position, I'd feel the same way too. So step number one, objection cycle. That's back from advanced training. I understand how you feel. If I were in your position, I'd feel the same way too. The second thing I would say is the following. Mrs. Jones, you know your husband better than anybody. If he were sitting here right now, do you think he would kind of tell you, just go for it, get what you want? This deal sounds pretty good. Or do you think he'd want to look at a couple of other options? And we got well, I don't know. I think you might want to consider some other stuff. And what else is there? And that's how you drop down. Be like, great, let me show you the next size set. And you basically would do that through the next several sets. And you just keep leaning on the question, do you think he'd want to look at some other options? Because all that's really allowing Mrs. Jones to say is, yes, that's too much money, without saying that to an 18-year-old. You understand, Mrs. Jones does not want to say that to an 18-year-old, that it's too much money. It's kind of weird to say, I can't afford that to an 18-year-old, especially when you're smiling and you've shared your goals and all that stuff. You've sort of enrolled them into wanting to buy. So they want to buy, they just don't want to say no to you. So let me talk to my husband is a much easier way to do that for you. So you know your husband better than I do. If he was here right now, do you think he would tell you to go for it and get whatever you want? Or do you think he'd want to look at some other options based on the price point? And the answer will more than likely be look at some other options. And then ask for the order at the homemaker or the galley set or the starter sets. And if they don't say yes to that, be like, great. I know that you want to ask your spouse about it. Do you mind if we show him a couple of other options? I'm going to keep showing her a couple of other options to show to her husband until she says yes to one of the options. Even if it's a trimmer. I'd rather you sell a trimmer today than her have to talk to her husband about it later, because she's not going to talk to her husband about it later. It's just a no sale. I want to talk to my husband is just called a smokescreen for it's too much money. Please show me something smaller that I'll feel more comfortable getting today. What Savannah did today, that was the answer, was actually called during the demo and hear me say that through her, which is how we sold $700. Right. So we sold, a customized set that got her everything she wanted, big discount. She still got 500 CPO out of it. And the customer was hyped and doesn't have to talk to her husband about it, which is a terrible conversation they want to have. You really think that's what they want to talk about? Cutlery? Her husband's overseas. You really think that's what he wants to hear about? Not how are you? No. Okay. All right. Great question. Hopefully you got that down. Next question. Saeed.
Overcome people saying that they want to talk to the person first before giving them their number?
Yes. How do you overcome, let me talk to my friends before I give out their numbers? So the question is, if you were their son, would they say the same thing? Probably not, right? So it's a relationship issue. They don't trust you. And there's only one reason they don't trust you is because they don't know you. I trust you because I know you. I spent 2 days of training with you. Right? So I'd let you borrow my car and go to the grocery store if you needed to, but if I don't know you well enough, I wouldn't. So this goes back to just reinforcing myself. I have to do a better job of building rapport. I have to get to the point where they feel like I'm one of their sons. How do you do that? You got to ask a ton of questions. You got to talk to them all throughout the demo as much as possible about stuff other than cutlery. You have to enroll them in your goals and make them want to help you. Your goals have got to be important to you. I'm not working at Cut because I'm trying to improve my skills. I'm committed to being the #1 person in my industry. And the only way I'm going to do that is by doing more appointments and pushing my skills, not by selling knives. I'm not asking for referrals to people that you think would buy. Just asking for nice moms. Okay, second thing, SIE, that I would do is I would remind them what you're going to do with the phone numbers, because that's the other thing. They just don't know what you're going to do. And so here's what I would say. Mrs. Jones, if it were anybody else but me, I probably would feel a little weird too. But I promise I'm going to be really respectful. I'm going to be super sweet to them. I'm going to be really nice. And Mrs. Jones, it's me. I was recommended by one of your best friends. Why would they recommend someone that's going to do anything weird? I'm just going to reach them once. And if they say no, I'll never call them again because I'm not going to mess up my reputation just to try to make a demo. So how about if we come up with just one person? Now you're going to go to the power of one. How can we, if we just come up with one person that you think doesn't hate college students? You just smile because obviously it's kind of, they'll laugh when you say that. But just one nice mom that you don't think hates college kids. So again, focus on building as much rapport as possible at the beginning of the demo so they like you more. Share that your goals are really important for you and the only thing that you need is nice moms to listen to your appointments. So focus on those goals. Remind them that you're going to treat their friends with kindness and respect. That you're only going to reach them once. You're going to be really nice to them. And how about just one person? Because if they can give you one, they'll start giving you more once you start bribing them with free Cutco. One just opens the dam. At that point, it's like, you want to dance? No, I don't want to dance. How about just one dance? Make the dance good. All of a sudden, you get more dances, right? Ladies, you know what I'm talking about, right? Saw you dance with the ugly guy all night. He was just a good dancer. Okay, gentlemen, learn how to dance. It's a thing. All right. See, that's one of the things I loved about Texas when I moved here. Guys dance. I was very much the outcast in Chicago. Nobody dances there. It's really awkward. But here, dude, you're like a wuss if you don't dance. It's like not manly to not know how to dance. I notice that. I like that about Texas. Question. One last question. We got a guest speaker here that's going to come up otherwise. Any other scenario that you were not sure how to handle? Jay, obviously you're brand new. Anything else that you wanted to ask? Haley, brand new. Not mandatory, by the way.
So, demo I had last night, they already had like pretty top quality kitchen knives. I can't remember the name of it. It's like a C, I think.
What are you talking?
I can't remember the names. Is there a way you kind of fuck them around?
If they already have good knives,
Yeah,
Michael, you want to deal with this one? I'm going to introduce you in a minute, but I figured if we got an expert here, Michael sold them. I'm going to introduce Michael in a minute, but when you're talking to somebody that already has really good cutlery, what do you do?
The first thing I always do is just build up that bunch of cutlery anyways, but then you just share why Cutco is that much better. The forever guarantee, you talk about how, we're going to sharpen our knives forever, that we're dishwasher safe. And I mean, especially with virtual demos, they get to see how awesome the product works with every single video. So, so always build up their knives too. Like if they have Schoon, if they have Wusthof, if they have Henkel's, then yeah, build them up. Say, yeah, they're great knives, but here's why Cutco's better. I mean, that's the first thing I always do.
Yeah, it's not like you're going to go into somebody's house who doesn't have knives. It's actually better that they have good knives because they'll understand why good knives cost money. So speaking of good knives, you like that transition. I'm going to go ahead and bring up our guest speaker here, coming at you live on Zoom. So here's some images of Mr. Michael Young and the amazing life that he has built. And 90% closing average. 90%. Shows 10 people, 9 of them buy. That's amazing. $1,000 average order size. That's crazy. That means on average, he expects to make $500 an hour. That's his expectation when he does 1 hour of work. I love that. That's like better than lawyer money without any of the stress. Currently at $517,000. I don't know if you know this, Mike, but you're number 380 in the history of the company.
Yep. Finally passed John Berghoff.
Finally passed John Berghoff. And, he offered, I posted on, we have a big Facebook group that a lot of top representatives are in. And I just asked, hey, would anybody be nice enough to give up a little bit of their time? And he's doing this for free. So I believe you live in the Washington area, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Not too far from where your wife is from.
Yeah. So I know that you were up in that area. So I couldn't remember exactly where. What's the name of the city?
I'm from Tacoma.
Tacoma, Washington. That's right. And I was actually there the other day taking a train. And you're very generous for giving us some of your time. I can't make the screen bigger, so we're going to keep it as it is right now because you're more here to listen to the content versus see how big the screen is. But Michael's going to be talking to you guys about how to make sure your average order size rocks. So please let's give him your attention. Let's give him a round of applause. Welcome to the team.
Thank you. Can I get? Am I able to screen share?
Please do. Let me go ahead and get my my screen to allow that for you. Yes, whenever you're ready, go for it.
Awesome. So when I was a new rep, by the way, guys, I wasn't very good. I had about a 60-70% closing percentage to start off with, a 250 average order. So, I mean, I guess I could say I was pretty average more than anything else. But I remember going to like my first SE1, SE2, Conference of Champions, and to various other conferences. And what I learned from those different conferences and being on a staff, also, you know, being in management for so long, those really helped me increase my average order over the course of time. And now my career averages on in-person demos is 1183, in virtual demos 1023, all with a 90% closing percentage. And what's great is I started 11 years ago. So I got to see the virtual demo really evolve from having no virtual demo to where you had to take people through the Cutco website, show them everything, and then to what it is now. And my first virtual demo, I sold a chef knife and got 2 wrecks. So I also wasn't very good when I first started virtual demos either. But again, what I learned through all these different experiences allowed me to increase. And I'm going to teach you those different things going forward here. But before I teach you everything, I want to mention this one thing. If you're not following your manual word for word right now, by implementing what you learned tonight, you will see incremental increases, not very big, but you'll see some. If you're following your manual word for word, you'll see a lot bigger increases on your average order. So the things I'll cover tonight, talk about mindset and enthusiasm. We'll go over like establishing rapport, which is, I'm going to explain the difference between that and building rapport. Go over some important questions to ask during your demo and some key things to closing comfortably. Now, if we still have some time, I'll go over a couple of quick ninja tips. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Awesome. So let's talk about mindset and enthusiasm. So the first mindset I want to talk about is belief. So the first belief, and this will actually help a lot with the question that we had about, you know, what if they have really good knives? Well, first of all, believe that the price of Cutco is perfect. And we should charge way more. Like every time we have a price increase with Cutco, we end up selling more as a company. That's huge. I mean, we should charge more. We could sell a Homemaker Plus 8 for $20,000 and it still would be a great value for people. That is my belief. And why is that? Because if someone buys Cutco, they're going to eat out less. They're going to save $18,000. If they, you know, just by buying whole versus pre-cut, they're going to save an additional 20, 25, 30,000 bucks. So it's still a great value. Plus they can pass it down from generation to generation. So the price of Cutco is perfect. We should charge way more. I mean, Wusthof, Schoon, Henkel's, we're like 25 to 50% less than they are for a much better quality product. The next belief that you want to have is that the customer's better off with Cutco than without it. You want to believe that the customer's better off with Cutco than without it because, you know, a double D edge, it's going to stay sharp 7 to 10 years. And they're going to love that thing, fall in love with it. Obviously, sets are a better value, but they're going to be better off just because they have something that's going to work for them consistently. The third belief that you want to have is that you can have a 90% closing percentage, that you can have $1,000 plus average order. You want to visualize it before any demo you ever do, whether virtual or in person, doesn't matter. So imagine before you do your demo, imagine what that customer would look like. What kind of conversation would you have when you're building rapport with your customer? Right? Think about like how your demo would go. How much enthusiasm would you have during your demo? How much would you really enjoy that demo? So visualize it beforehand. Now here's the thing I want you to write down. I want you to write this question down in your notes. What is a big order to you? What is a big order to you? Now, what I also want you to do is I want you to answer that question on your notes. And if you're on Zoom, I want you to share in the chat box. I'm going to share a few quick reviews that we've gotten from customers. And these are recent. You can see 8 months ago, Esther, I've had this set for 25 years and they still look new and work perfectly. This is my favorite wedding gift along with the Cutco pots and pans. Thank you, Cutco, for making these amazing products. So Surrey, Cutco rep. I just received my Cutco this past week and absolutely love them. This was 6 months ago. Until I worked for a while as an independent sales rep, I had never heard of this brand before without even actually seeing or using them, and only seeing them in use on our demo videos. I fell in love with them and knew I just had to get my own. I've worked as a professional chef for over 20 years, so I'm very particular about the tools of my trade. I've always used Henkel's up until now. I can honestly say these are far superior. I'll share 2 more. I bought this set last month for our daughter and son-in-law. Of course, they were delighted to receive such a great present. I and my husband bought our own set, the same set 27 years ago, and they're still sharp. And then the last one I'll share is cookware. This was actually probably one of Mike Dow's customers. I purchased my cookware this past summer. Mike video chatted with me with encouragement and tips on using. I first joined the Cutco family about 10 years ago with the purchase of my first knives, and I've since added to my collection along with a month ago buying the flatware. My first reason for purchasing Cutco was that it's American made and the quality can't be beat. I burned something in the skillet and was afraid I ruined the pan, but it cleaned up like a dream. I truly love my cookware and I enjoy bringing them down from where they hang to prepare a meal. Cutco cookware is such high quality and well worth the price. If you purchase, you will not be disappointed. So I don't know about you, but that fires me up just to see how much people love their Cutco. So that belief that, people are going to be better with Cutco than without it is huge. All right, so we talked about belief. The second mindset is confidence. And so one thing I want to share about this. Number one is what communication is. Communication is 7% the words that you say. So what you say with your manual is very important. 38% is a tone and 55% is your body language. So if you're doing a virtual demo and it's the interactive demo, so you have them on a video chat, use your body language. It helps to show your confidence, especially if you talk with your hands a lot. That's me. I talk with my hands all the time. So it helps bring that confidence there. Now, if they can't see you, here's the thing. Body language moves into tone. So 93% would be your tone at that point. So that's the first thing I want to share is use your body language to your advantage there. The other confident thing about confidence is that the customer is going to buy. And here's what you want to think. What would be fun for them to buy? And you never know. It could be a Cutco kitchen. It could be just the cookware. It could be all the gadgets and accessories. It could be a Homemaker +8. It could be 3 ultimate sets. You just never know. So go into every demo thinking, what would be fun for this customer to buy? And you can start building it up in your head. It could be like 3 Cutco kitchens, who knows? All right, and then enthusiasm. So the last 4 letters of enthusiasm are IASM. And that stands for I am sold myself. I am sold myself. So if you're still in your fast start, hey, make sure you win a bunch of Cutco and then use it. If you're already out of your fast start, make sure that you use the product at home and build that belief in it. I remember getting my sample kit and getting my first Cutco knives and using them, and man, there's nothing better. So make sure that you're using your knives. That's the easiest way. Because a sale is all it is a transfer of enthusiasm from one person to another. And that's huge. So you've been selling your entire lives. I want you to take that confidence right now. You've been selling your entire lives, whether it's to a friend to get them to go to a movie that you want to see, or your parents to, hey, I want to see out a little bit later with my friends. You've been doing it your whole life, right? So that's what enthusiasm is. So I spent a bunch of time talking about mindset, but now I want to talk about establishing rapport. And so you establish rapport in order to build a relationship. So instead of saying building rapport, you want to say establishing rapport. And here's the reason why. Every time that you have an interaction with someone, whether it's someone you know or someone you don't, the first thing you do is you always establish rapport. It's the small talk at the beginning of that new interaction. Here's the thing, is if you say something offensive during the establishing rapport phase of any conversation, you have to reestablish it. Now, if you already have a relationship, though, the relationship's already there. So, according to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, rapport is a friendly, harmonious relationship, especially a relationship characterized by agreement, mutual understanding, or empathy that makes communication possible or easy. And so that's why we take the time at the beginning of our demos to establish that rapport with customers. It makes all that communication that much easier. And this is, no matter what talk I give, I always make sure that rapport is a part of it, because one of those underrated tools in your arsenal to have a much better demo and help create long-lasting relationships. So Damien mentioned a couple of things earlier, but yeah, ask a lot of questions. And the whole idea of asking a lot of questions is to, break the ice. So that way you find that common ground with your customer. So maybe their kids play soccer or are in band. Maybe they like really nice cars. You never know without asking questions. Now, here's the thing, though. You also want to ask a lot of FU questions. FU stands for follow-up, not the other thing. Follow-up questions. So now the thing about follow-up questions is you don't want to just be thinking about your next follow-up question. You want to be actively listening. And so it should be a really authentic, genuine conversation. So when you're asking your FU questions, let's say they said something about their kids playing soccer. Oh, cool. How long has your kids been playing soccer for? And they'll mention it. Oh, what do they like playing? What do they like about playing soccer? Oh, you probably know all the soccer moms, right? And the thing about this is you want to continue to dig deeper to get to know them. It is okay to go deeper and deeper and deeper. They'll let you know if you get too personal. But make sure you don't just go like 0 to 10, right? You got to peel back layers, kind of like an onion. The biggest thing about this part is you want to be interested, not interesting. So I always like to say you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Use them accordingly. So you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Use them accordingly. So when you're building rapport, establishing rapport, the thing about it is that 80% of it will be you listening. 20% of it will be you talking. And most of that talking that you do is asking questions. And one of the last things I'll mention about this is that rapport is not just done at the beginning of your demo. It is throughout. And so it is okay if you break off for a second from your demo, from your script, and you end up taking a moment to build some more rapport, establish more rapport, get to know them a little bit better. That's totally fine. You just jump right back into where you left off. The idea, though, throughout this entire thing is to build that relationship. Because that's what sales is. It's a relationship that lasts not just one transaction, but multiple transactions beyond that. And so this was also mentioned, share your goals powerfully. So I don't have time to go into all the nuts and bolts of how to, but the idea is you want to have something that is powerful to you with reasons that make sense. And so definitely schedule time with like Damien, your assistant managers to really buckle down what would make sense for you to share on your demos, because this is what ties them into you and the point of your demo where they get to know you at a high level. All right, so next is the questions to ask during the demo. Now, there are some really powerful questions you can ask. And these things, now one of these, I was really fired up when we talked about the husband objection, because one of my favorite questions to ask, and this is where you ask it. I won't even talk about the question yet. So before you get into talking about the homemaker set and all the names and uses for it, this is a great time to break off and ask a couple questions. You all ready for it?
Let's go.
All right. My first question I always like to ask is, are you the queen of the kitchen, or does your husband help with the kitchen decisions?
That's awesome.
And what this does is it already gives her, like, she's giving you permission to sell her whatever she wants. Like when she says, yes, I can make all the kitchen decisions, it's no longer about she's not going to use that husband smokescreen, because she already told you, yes, I can make the kitchen decisions. So yes, like Damien mentioned, it is more an objection of price when they give that to you at the end of the demo, but this eliminates it anyways. And plus, usually the wife does make the kitchen decisions anyway. So she's letting you know right there. The other question I like to ask right here is, what kinds of things do you cut or cook regularly?
Today.
So what kind of things do you cut or cook regularly? And what I love about this part is, especially doing a virtual demo, you can start writing down everything that she mentions. So when you start to talk about names and uses, let's say she's like, oh yeah, I do a lot of tomatoes. We do garlic bread like at least once a week. You can now tailor the names and uses. Oh, Mrs. Jones, you know how you said you cut a lot of tomatoes? You're gonna love the trimmer because, and then you explain how it cuts tomatoes and show her the videos. And it's awesome. The other kinds of questions I like to ask, and this is during the names and uses sections, is have you ever questions? So I'll give you a few examples. Now, you don't want to do it with every knife because it could get really overwhelming for the customer, but like 3 to 4 are good. So and the point of have you ever questions is you want to ask a question that is likely for them to say, yes, it's happened to them. So my favorite question to ask, oops, have you ever cut a tomato with a dull knife? Most people say yes. And like, yeah, Mr. Jones, that's how like it squishes and the juices go all over the place. Oh, you're gonna love the trimmer because just imagine never having a squished tomato ever again. That's money. Now, have you ever made a mess making PB&J? Everyone has. Like they're trying to scoop it out with like the butter knife, the jelly, or they're taking the peanut butter and they're having trouble like spreading that peanut butter on the bread. Is like ripping the bread. That's horrible, right? Well, hey, they're gonna love the spatula spreader then because it scoops, serves, cuts, and spreads one tool to clean. The other one I always like to ask is, have you ever smashed warm bread while trying to cut it? And usually Mrs. Jones says yes on this one. And if they're like, no, oh, what about like the garlic bread at dinner? Oh, and they're like, oh yeah, I've done that before. And you're like, oh, Mrs. Jones, you're gonna love the slicer because you're never gonna have smashed bread ever again. The last thing, now this last thing I'm gonna share in this section is not really a question. It is actually something that's just as powerful though, and it's sharing third person stories. Now, if you don't have any, I'll explain what it is. It's basically like 1 to 2, maybe 3 sentences of why they would love the knife. And here's what it would look like. Hey, Mrs. Jones, you know how you got recommended by your friend Betty? Yeah, she loves the chef knife because it just chops, dices, and minces like fruits, nuts, and veggies with ease. Oh, Mrs. Jones, this homemaker set was a set that your friend Jenny got, and she loved it because it had all the basic tools to get 100% of the jobs done the most efficient way possible with the least amount of tools. So you're basically just explaining what they loved about it that's already in your manual there. Now, I've got a question for all of you, because I know that when I was a brand new rep, I felt this way too. Has anyone ever felt as you're dropping down, almost like you were pressuring a customer? Yeah, I know I did when I was a new rep. Now that was all on me. That the customers weren't feeling that, by the way, just so you know. That was just an internal feeling that I felt. So I've got some questions for you as you're dropping down through your demo to really help to make it a much easier time for you and for your customer, and a much more comfortable time. So let's say you've went and you tried to sell them the Homemaker Plus 8, and they said no. You've ended up answering all their concerns, and they still said no, and which is totally fine, by the way. I've got 2 questions for you to ask before you drop down to the galley set. And the first question is, do you carve a turkey every day? And I mean, what do you think their answer is going to be? They're going to say no, right? So, because no one's carving a turkey every day. Don't matter where you're from. Okay, well, and Mrs. Jones, are you cutting up watermelon or squash every day? Again, they're going to say no. Even in the fall, they might cut up a watermelon or a squash, or at least a squash, like maybe once a week. But they're not cutting up squash every day. They're not cutting watermelon up every day. And then you're going to sell them off of the Homemaker set. Oh, Mrs. Jones, and this isn't the set for you. let me show you something a little bit smaller you'll feel a lot more comfortable getting today. And then you show them the galley set. Now, what if they say no to the galley set? We'll actually have 2.5 questions for you that make it easy to drop down to the starter sets. And actually, with asking these 2.5 questions, you can actually recommend the starter set that makes the most sense for them. So here's the first question. So let's say they said no to the galley set. You've answered their concerns. The first question you're going to ask is, which one knife would you use the least? And usually out of the galley set, it's like the slicer or maybe the petite carver. Sometimes it's a spatula spreader, but they're going to tell you one knife. So you want to make sure you word it, which one knife would you use the least? The second question, you're just going to smile and nod when you say it. Would you use the block? So smile and nod. Would you use the block? Usually they're going to say yes. Sometimes they'll say no. Now the half question. You're going to definitely smile and nod. The biggest, cheesiest smile you can. And you would use those table knives, right? Because everyone's going to use those table knives. They're awesome. Like when we do in-home demos, we're cutting leather and they just love it. So, and you'd use those table knives, right? And now based off what they say, you're like, oh, I've got the perfect set for you, Mrs. Jones. It's a few less knives for a lot less money. So let's say they said they wouldn't use a slicer. They would use a block and they'd use the table knives. You're going to recommend the set that's the closest to that, which would be the Essentials +5. And so they get a chopping knife, they get the petite carver, the spatula spreader, the paring knife, turning fork, they get 5 table knives and a block to store it in. And it's a few less knives for a lot less money. And so now let's say they wouldn't use a block. That's totally fine. You're going to recommend one of the tray sets, either the all knife or the kitchenette. Based on what they told you, you're going to pick out the one that makes the most sense. And of course, share the 5 pay. And so those are the 4 basic tips, right? I don't know if we have enough time. Do I have enough? I do got time?
You got 2 minutes more. Give
2
them the
minutes
best-
more? Okay. So I'll go through these super, super quick. I've got 3 ninja tips then for you. And I'll share a couple of resources that you can just screenshot at the end here. So I'll knock these out real quick for you. So ninja tip number 1, they're not gonna pop up here on the screen. So if you want to take some good notes here, is you got to start higher to end higher. You got to start higher to end higher. Now, my favorite way to do this is right before you start to close on the homemaker set, where in your manual, it would say, so like I said earlier, our most popular set is the homemaker +8 set. Right here, I like to present the 3 sets, the complete set, the family set, and the basic set. Because you have the slides where you can skip back and forth, especially with the interactive demo. And here's how you present it. So these are 3 most popular sets. So I'm going to go through this so you can get this down word for word. I'll go slow. So these are 3 most popular sets. The complete set, so you show them the ultimate set. So the complete set, which is the 10 tools I explained earlier. So the complete set, which is the 10 tools I explained earlier, plus all the customer requested tools. This is a complete set. It's the 10 tools I explained earlier, plus all the customer requested tools. Then after you show that, you show them the family set. This is the family set, so the signature set. This is a family set. It's the 10 tools I explained earlier, plus the 4 customer favorite tools. If they ever ask, it's the shears, cheese knife, petite santoku, and the hardy slicer. And then you have the basic set, which is the 10 tools I explained earlier, plus the 8 table knives. So after you explain the sets and what comes in it, just that briefly, just like I just did. So Mr. Jones, these are our 3 most popular sets. The complete set, which has the 10 tools I explained earlier, plus all the customer requested tools. The family set, which is the 10 tools I explained earlier, plus all the 4 customer favorite tools. And then the basic set, which is the 10 tools I explained earlier, plus the 8 table knives. You're going to ask a pre-closing question, and it goes like this. Of these three sets, which set do you feel that you and your family, so out of these three sets, which set do you feel that you and your family would get the most use and value, out of over the next 20, 30, or even 40 plus years? So of these three sets, which set do you feel like you and your family would get the most use and value out of them over the next 20, 30, even 40 plus years? Now, what I love about that question is that it now builds that more conviction in the set that they're going to have, not just for 5 or 10 years, like Henkel's and Wusthof. They're going to have it for much longer than that. And so whatever they answer, you present the price. Now, what I like to do on my demos is I like to just quickly show as a price comparison, if they pick out a smaller set of the three, the set above it. For instance, if they said, yeah, we would use the family set. Okay, just so you know, Mrs. Jones, the complete set is only whatever it is on whatever it is on the 5Pay. I don't have all the new prices memorized. I'm sorry. But you were just looking at the family set, right, Mrs. Jones? Like, yes, awesome. Well, hey, the family set is only this much, and on the 5Pay be this much. And then call Damien and get one of those silver cup specials. So ninja tip number 1 is start higher to end higher. Ninja tip number 2 is you gotta show everything. I'll tell a quick story. So last summer I ran an office and I had a rep named Jake. And even though it's built into the manual to show everything, he sold a Homemaker plus 8 and he was getting ready just to end the demo. I reminded him, hey, Jake, you got to show absolutely everything. And he went through, he showed the cookware, the customer, this is his 4th demo ever, bought every piece of cookware plus a Homemaker plus 8, hit two promotions on one order. You just never know. You never know what they're going to be interested in. They may want cookware, they may want flatware, they may want it all. I mean, eventually they're going to want it all anyways. It's Cutco. And the last tip I'll share is qualify your recs. Always qualify your recommendations. And I always like to ask, I'll share one question I like to ask with qualifying is I always like to ask, what are they known for? Or what's something interesting about them? And the reason why I do that is when I go to call the customer, and this helps you with your phone time too, by the way. This also helps you start to establish rapport before you ever get to the demo. So they're already going to like you ahead of time. Is when you call them on the phone, like, hey, is this Sally, the lady who makes the best brownies in the world? Like, hey, yeah, how do you know that? My friend Betty, your friend Betty actually mentioned that you made like these phenomenal brownies. By the way, did she mention why I would be calling? And so she ends up liking you that much better. And so
Awesome.
At the very least, if you share your confidence, you share your belief, you have great enthusiasm on your demo, you use the questions that we talked about tonight, you drop down comfortably, you are going to see some big jumps in your average order and your closing percentage. And then if you add those ninja tips on top of that, even better. So here's a quick few resources that's helped me in my career. Some of these are books and audiobooks. I'll mention The Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. Awesome book. Listen to it on Audible, not read it. It's not because it's bad. It's just, they go through extra stuff on the Audible. And the last one I'll share is for stuff that you can get on Vector Connect. The audio and video library, there are thousands upon thousands of hours of just gold. It's just gold to help you with your demos, help you get better as a person too. Most of these are ones that are mindset things, but the videos from Curtis JQs, Josh Mueller Upserving, those are some great, powerful tools to help you on your demos. So thanks, guys. I really appreciate you guys having me here. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you, sir. That was incredibly thorough. My gosh. So I hope you took a lot of notes. I did too. If you wanted to, if you guys have documents that you took notes on, you want to share it with the group, that's awesome. I think right now, obviously, the best way to thank Michael for the time that he spent